Nervous system regulation is a huge buzzword these days. And it seems that every single time I have my friend Irene on the show, we have about 6 months in between our chats, and this continues to grow and grow and grow, and the confusion continues to grow. What is nervous system regulation? And what is it not? Well, I'll tell you what it's not. It is not doing weird exercises. That is not regulation. There are a lot of deeper layers. So today, Irene and I wanted to really talk about that, talk about the changing landscape of how people are getting their information, implementing it, and what that is actually doing, what that actually looks like, not necessarily in a positive light. So if you're new here, I have several episodes I've done with Irene. She's a great friend of mine. I was introduced to her work in 2020, did her programs in 2021, and they've continued to be helpful for me all these years later. And so I continue to bring her back onto the show just to talk about this topic, because something I mentioned in the episode is that a lot of people that come through my programs, I recognize there is an element of nervous system that needs to be supported beyond the basics. So I continue to send people to Irene and continue to get great success stories, which, speaking of, I will put a link in the show notes that has Irene's success story playlist down there, because sometimes you just need to feel that level of encouragement of, hey, if they can do it, so can I. So that's down there in the show notes for you as well. And if you're interested in Irene's Smart Body, Smart Mind program, that is the flagship one that I did that was extremely helpful for me back in 2021. And I've redone it a couple times. I might even join in on this next round. Registration is open from February 25th through March the 3rd for the next round. So if you're interested, I will put the link in the show notes so you can check that out. And I hope you enjoy today's episode. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I have my good friend Irene Lyon back here today. I'm going to put our whole entire playlist down in the show notes, because I feel like we've talked pretty much about every single topic there is to talk about. And I thought today, I mean, Irene has some ideas, but I was just kind of thinking we go a little bit back to basics, because even since the last time we talked, which maybe it was in September, I'm not sure.
Maybe,
I think we
I
did a
don't
live.
remember. It's all blending into one, Sarah.
I know. And even then, it's exploded even more of more and more people that are kind of saying they're nervous system experts, different theories, I think people are just confused about, first of all, what the heck is nervous system regulation anyway? And then maybe some of the crazy things that you see from your lens. Yeah. Yeah, let's do that. And then maybe even before we start all of that, let's talk a little bit about your background, your history. I know we have before,
Sure.
but I think to
Might be
qualify,
good.
I think we need to qualify the information that you're giving, because, again, anyone can kind of at this point say they're a nervous system expert. There's no regulatory board
God,
uh,
no.
at all. So
No.
let's start there.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll do the quick laundry list of all the things that I have. And you know what's so interesting, Sarah, is when I would talk about my credentials a few years ago, I was ridiculed for being insecure. So I'm just going to put that out there. It's kind of comical because anyone who has credential, like real ones, they're very proud of them.
Hmm.
And so I have a background in exercise physiology, health science, even applied human nutrition. I did 9 years of undergrad, getting all these certificates and a bachelor's degree in applied science. I worked in fitness and rehab worlds for like 13 years, if not longer. I started in 97, working with seniors, gerontology, athletes, pain, rehab, in multiple gyms and recreation centers, and sports centers. And then I injured myself quite badly in my 20s, and all the stuff I had learned in that 9 years, believe it or not, wasn't helping me recover from an ACL rupture and a patella fracture due to ski racing. And I was like, what's going on? Why can I not get better? with PT and massage and exercise rehab and all the things that are typical. And so that led me to the Feldenkrais work. So we won't talk really much today about the Feldenkrais method, but it is an integral part of everything I do.
It's
Um,
funny that you brought that up, just if I could
okay.
say something. Somebody in my coaching group last week was talking about a concussion that they
Huh?
had.
Yeah.
And another member said, "Oh, you need to really look into Feldenkrais to help in your
Interesting.
situation."
That's
Yeah,
good.
because she was already asking about whether or not she should go into your program. And then
Hmm.
someone else said, "Oh, Feldenkrais helped me recover from a concussion. It's
Yeah,
fantastic. It's
it
amazing." And I
is.
was like, "Yes, then this confirms Irene's program." So sorry
Yeah.
to interrupt. I just thought that
No,
was,
no, that is not it. I love hearing those stories
yeah.
because it kind of is a lost art and science, and there's historical reasons for that, political reasons within the guilds, our guilds. To keep something moving forward takes a lot of work, a lot of integrity, and to be frank, Sarah, the practitioners getting along and agreeing on a path forward for that profession. And a lot of these professions in the more mind body neuroplasticity world, they're not in agreement of what the work is.
Hmm.
It's very different than exercise science. I know your good friend Rob,
Yeah.
like there's these lineages in exercise side that are so strong.
Oh, yeah.
I know he studied with Poliquin, that
Harlequin. Yeah.
that was referenced in our textbooks. We don't have an equivalent of that yet in the somatic healing arts.
Mm.
So I got into Feldenkrais in '01, and then I studied '04 to '07, became a practitioner, was working in that capacity at a fairly high level for a lot of years. But then it was very clear to me that I was still missing a piece, and that piece was the traumatic stress piece.
Mm.
And that's what led me into the work of Peter Levine, somatic experiencing. That was '08. I started studying SE in '09 and really just went full throttle with his lineage, along with the lineages of Kathy Kane and Stephen Terrell that form the bread and butter of my how I worked in private practice, but also my online courses. And I was working and learning from them up until I think it was 2016. And then I stopped assisting around 2018 at the master classes with Peter, just because there comes a point where you just have to kind of work and
Yeah.
start,
Great.
getting a paycheck and not just going to training after training. But my training career it's long. I mean, if
Yeah.
you look from university in 1993 to 2017, I'm not good at math, but that's a long time. And so that's my background in learning these processes. Oh, and I forgot, I also got a master's degree in there, went to Australia, did some actual academic science. I can't believe I just forgot that. That was like one of the hardest times of my life, but
Oh,
really rewarding. So I got a taste of actual scientific method at the academic level. We published a study. It was a great experience. I was at a university teaching undergrad biology. Like it was cool. So that was like a very pivotal point in time because I decided at that moment, Sarah, I do not want to be in academic science. It was so clear. I hated it. I hated the politics. And so now I'll pause in a moment. You ask what is nervous system regulation? It's not this one defining factor. But what I will say is that I'm seeing now people, and this is mainly social media. So there's the social media world, and then there's the actual professional world. And I would say that 10 years ago, it was a lot easier to explain and talk about my profession and what my colleagues do because things hadn't been muddied or
yeah.
dumbed down. People hadn't, like, the biohacking concept didn't even exist.
Hmm.
And so what's occurred is those buzzwords and that influencer technology, if we want to call it, has infiltrated into the nervous system world, into the what's called the new traumatology. This is a term that was used a lot when I started, and that's just to depict working with the human body in this lens of understanding that humans hold stress, survival stress, because we don't release it after a stressful event. This was sort of Peter Levine's main,
Yes.
you know, findings. And that was like the spark in the late 60s. Not to say that there weren't other cultures understanding this, indigenous cultures, and who did tribal ceremony and drumming and singing and fire ceremony. I mean, yes, that is all true. But in the more westernized world, he realized, holy cow, like we hold in our trauma responses, whereas the tiger in the wild, ain't holding back anger, right? So he put that on the map, and then that birthed kind of where we're at now, 50 plus years later. And that was called the new traumatology. And what's happened now is that the actual biological science has been oversimplified. We're seeing a huge witch hunt right now against the polyvagal theory, which is
Yeah, what's going on with that?
yeah, well, we
I
we
just
can
saw
we
a
can
video pop up on my Substack. I was like, what's happening with this?
yeah.
I can't keep up.
No, it's nothing. So we can talk about that,
Yeah.
but I'll finish that thought. Is that the work isn't just about the theory that is discovered in labs working with animals. That is part of it. That is part of it. SE, Peter's invention, isn't just SE. He had mentors, he had things that informed him from more body work and Eastern traditions and biophysics. And so when you're on the outside and you haven't been in these practical settings in the trainings over decades, like I have, and obviously my elder colleagues have for way longer, if you haven't been in that and all you've seen I'm quoting with my hands here, air quotes, that the nervous system work is just doing breath work or doing cold plunges or doing sensory whatever or activating your vagus nerve through these things. If you've only seen that, I can't even find a good analogy for this, Sarah. It's like it's a complete bastardization, in my opinion, of the depth of what has been amassed over 50 plus years from all these high level clinicians and practitioners who have devoted their entire lives and written books and seen people in trainings and in their clinical practice heal massive traumatic events, massive. And right now, whatever is occurring, and yeah, scientific method is meant to be scrutinized. It's meant to be restudied. The classic situation is to repeat a study in a different lab, in a different university, and see if you get the same results.
Yeah.
And there's been this weird confusion that science is like a law. Now, there are certain laws of physics that if I take my pen and drop it, sorry guys, it's going to drop. Yeah. Water, if it goes to the freezing point, is going to start to freeze.
Correct.
Boiling points of water. So this is where we lose context. It's like there are certain physical sciences that have law that we know is pretty darn accurate. But we also know you go into outer space, those elements don't behave the same way. My pen isn't going to drop. I just want to put that out there because when it comes to the nervous system and these theories, one could say, oh, it's only a theory. It isn't valid for women's nervous systems. It's not valid, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, okay, and can we look at what has worked? Can we look at what actually we do know is true? And so I have not spent, because honest to God, Sarah, I was bombarded because of the damn algorithm this weekend with all of these posts of mainly what I can see are influencers. I can't, and I'm not going to go down and like scrutinize, does this person have credential? And it's like, what is happening? And when you read through these slides on Instagram, the first thing that I see that is completely inaccurate is people will say that polyvagal claims that we want to have a calm nervous system. Like that's the goal of regulation.
Never taught that
It's
ever.
not that.
Which is so important and crucial, I think, about your work because it's not about calming down. And sometimes you need to. That was what I loved about your program is that it actually taught me that sometimes this needs to come out.
Out.
And if my child falls off their bike and they need to scream, to let them have that moment to scream and not to say, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. That's
Mhm.
it's completely gotten
Yeah.
convoluted, and that's why I'm saying people are so confused. And
Mhm.
just even in my coaching groups, I'm like, we are okay to feel things, guys. Like, and it's just creating a container and the titration enough, which is again stuff I learned inside your programs to navigate through these things. We're not supposed to just suppress, but that's again a Western viewpoint and how we deal with everything from, you get a fever, suppress it with Tylenol, you get,
Yep.
and there is a time and a place sometimes for some suppression, right? But
Or some treatment from something
yeah,
medical based. So a
yeah,
hundred. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
So that was one of the main critiques I got, which to me isn't really a critique because it shows that the person posting that doesn't really understand, and it's just is getting almost we could say buzzwords. The other thing that's occurred, because I don't want to scrutinize all that stuff so much, but because so many people have maybe I don't know, listened to a podcast or gotten the Coles or Cliff Notes version of what the polyvagal theory is, they're creating content.
mm-hmm.
And I'm going to name her because it's just driven me crazy. The holistic psychologist Nicole LaPera. The amount of times I've had my students and
I know she's
send
stories
send
a
me
million times.
send me her content that is going to millions of people.
Yeah, she has like 7 million
I
followers now, something
I
like
don't
that
I
on
don't know.
Instagram. I don't know.
I don't know. It's a lot. And like blatantly wrong descriptions of the branches of the autonomic nervous system and how they work. I mean, you don't even need to put the polyvagal theory in there, but she's got, rest, digest confused with social engagement, confused with the different tones of the dorsal branch of the this and that. And anyway, it's really hard right now for people to know who to believe because she is a licensed, as far as I know, therapist. So, of course,
Right.
you would believe someone who has that credential and has lots and lots of followers. And there's nothing I can, like, there's nothing to police that. So,
Yeah.
it comes back down to, in some ways, when you watch the person online,
Mm-hmm.
can you find them talking about something intelligently for more than 30 minutes without notes
Right.
and without having to make it a meme or a skit?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
and this is the part, if you go to a lot of influencer pages around the nervous system, they look great, it's polished, it's fun and funny. But I say to people, go, can you find this person talking about multiple things? Often the Q&A is like the best thing. Can they answer a whole
Mm.
bunch of questions that are deep, consultation-based questions? And I haven't seen them do this. And so anyway, that's the element where I go, what's going on here and why are people so confused? And I think part of it is the social media world has captured the nervous system because
Yes.
here's the thing, Sarah, we do need to work with the nervous system. That is why I wasn't able to just do my practice with Feldenkrais and my background in science and exercise rehab. I needed to learn these next pieces, as I mentioned earlier. That was a necessity. And of course, now everyone's going, wow, we really need to heal the nervous system. We need to heal the nervous system. Yes, that's true. But now every single coach is claiming to be a nervous system expert, and it's become a word that just gets put in there.
Yeah.
And so now when me and my team talk about it, it's like it has less impact. And I also don't want to start finding different words because I've seen that people like, okay, I'm just going to call it this. Like someone said the other day, to me, and this isn't their fault because they don't know, like, why do we call it window of tolerance, which is a key term used in the neurobiology of the nervous system. It was coined by Dan Siegel. Why don't we call it window of resilience? I'm like, well, but it's about tolerance.
Right. That's
It actually is about what can you tolerate before your system spikes into excess activation or shutdown or dissociation. So if we call it resilience, it doesn't make sense anymore.
yeah.
And then I'll say one more thing and then I'll stop and then you can ask questions.
Yeah.
I've also seen in the last few days in this like immersion of social media influencer carousels that people are starting to say things like, regulation is the goal. If you're not regulated, you're not broken, or no one is fragile. And I'm like, oh, I've worked with people who are fragile.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that that person is not an amazing human.
But their nervous system is.
It is, or their bones are fragile.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
I could break a bone in this person because there's no life, there's no mineralization, there's no and so we've also swung in this really interesting world where nobody wants to take ownership for the fact that, yeah, I'm a little sick. I'm
Well,
not
it's,
well,
I feel
right?
like the you're not broken thing is a chat GPT thing.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Tell me.
Oh, it's totally a chat thing. Like I can tell if someone's used chat to
Oh,
write, because they'll always say you're not broken, but blah blah blah, and I'm like, mm. So I think that
huh.
maybe that's where some of it's coming in as well. Is yeah, people are, and the online space has changed quite a bit
Mhm.
because a lot of people are using chat to basically run their entire profile and run their entire
I just don't
platform.
understand that, man.
And well, it's because yeah, and that's what I always say to people is like, do they ever go on podcasts? Do they ever do interviews? Do they ever do Q&As? Do they
Mhm.
ever, you know,
Teach from
teach?
their mouth and brain.
Right, because if not, then it's probably just kind of they can fool you into not. I'm even seeing these AI pages now. They're popping up everywhere. Not to just go on a totally different
That's
tangent,
okay.
but I'm seeing AI pages and it's the woman and it's like this is what divorce can do, and it'll show like an overweight woman and then be like the divorce effect, and then she's like ripped and like in really good shape, and it's all AI generated. The whole video is AI generated, and people are falling for it. Like these people they're starting to gain followings. You go in the bio, it's the same thing. They're selling a training program, a meal plan for cheap. It's just somebody out there like running everything through AI. And so I think it's that's
Wow.
happening with all the nervous system stuff because people are going into chat GPT so much more often. Um, and I in my business it's like
Hmm.
I'm really I had stopped doing a lot of live stuff, but I've realized that now I have to do more live stuff if I want to keep everything going because
Yeah.
people need the connection. They need to talk through
Yeah.
things instead of just feeding everything into chat. And chat's
Yeah.
wrong about a lot of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff chat is completely wrong about. And so
Yeah.
I've started doing more, not a lot. It's got very capped off and limited spaces because I only have so much capacity. But,
Hmm.
you know, I'm now doing more live stuff because there's a need for it because people are
Hmm.
getting so confused and they're
Hmm.
really kind of messing themselves up through just trying to DIY it from online posts and then going in chat and trying to figure it all out.
Yeah.
So it's a really interesting time right now. I
Yeah.
think something's got to give, but with the nervous system stuff, with my stuff, it's nutrition and lifestyle.
Yeah.
You definitely can mess yourself up
Yeah.
in that world, but I feel like with yours, with the nervous system, you can mess yourself up even more because a lot of the stuff that I deal with people in my community, nervous system is at the root of a lot of the issues that have got them in there in the first place,
Yeah.
and we're just uncovering layers and trying to build stability, build, help them to really just like get out of conservation mode and really like give them the basic
Hmm.
tools
Hmm.
But I'm like, the reason why you have these patterns, the reason why this is happening for you this way, does go back to nervous system regulation. You're just doing this as a way to protect yourself, to keep yourself safe, you
which is
know?
which is completely valid.
Yeah.
And that's the part I think, that people are getting confused by is, and I'll just do very general, like if someone is living in some form of survival stress, we'll go back to what is nervous system regulation. So there are blended states of our autonomic nervous system. We don't just have one thing where it's all, well, we could, but we would be very dysfunctional. Like
Yeah.
someone could be living in a bit of a fight flight, but a bit of freeze and maybe a little bit of collapse, or someone is just always activated and got some freeze in them. Or we see more in the chronic illness folk that work through my work, and you would see this in your world, just this deep collapse
Mm.
and lethargy and no life force energy. But under that, Sarah, is a ton of fight flight, right? You've got that collapse. And
Yeah.
then under that, you've got all this fight flight that's just like wanting to bust out of the system. But when you're in that deep shutdown state of your autonomic nervous system, which is governed partially by the vagus nerve and the parasympathetic, you don't have the energy to get that out. So you have to build back up your foundation so you can get that scream out, or that
Yeah.
anger out, or that shaking response out that needs to come out organically.
Yep.
But what's happened, so I'm gonna connect this to the polyvagal thing that's gotten really confusing for people,
Yes.
is I'll use an example. So there's a classic technique, we would call it a technique or an exercise, that Peter Levine would have popularized ages ago. It's in some of his books. I'm surprised he actually puts them in his books, because just doing this for the sake of doing it can have consequence. And it's this sound that sounds like a foghorn, which is the Voo sound. And you would have learned it in SBSM,
I remember.
like the deep baritone foghorn. Woo. It's like a Gregorian chant sound. And it does it. He was inspired by Eastern Tibetan monks chanting in that deep vibration. He was also inspired by living in the Bay Area and hearing the foghorns under the Golden Gate Bridge. Yeah. Now, that is one technique, and it's meant to actually, in a clinical setting, help a person feel their internal self. But it also is a way to see, where is this person at in their capacity to make a sound. And when they make that sound, or when they hear me demonstrate, does fear come over their eyes? Or do they get interested? Like, ooh, what's that? I mean, you have kids, when your child doesn't like something, it's like it's a very different response to, I want that thing, I want that thing, right? It's in the body. And so when I would sit and watch Peter do these sessions upon sessions in classes, he would have someone come in front of the class who he's never met. He knows the history, of course, and we've all heard the history. And after a little bit of pleasantries of, hi, my name is, it's so nice to meet you. Not everybody, but he would be like, I want you to, he goes, I used to live in the Bay Area, and I used to sit, he had this whole story. I don't know how many times I heard it. I used to sit under the Golden Gate Bridge before, national security made it not possible to do that. And ha ha ha, everyone laughs. And he said, and there was these foghorns that would be there to let the ships know where things are, whatever, or the ships would make the foghorn sound. And they're like, oh yeah, I get that. So that's his way of socially engaging, telling a story. He goes, it kind of sounds like this, and then he'll do it. So you see what I'm doing here? In the context of clinical practice, you just don't give people this sound and say, okay, Sarah, I want you to do this sound right now.
Right.
He's engaging in a dialogue of this story of his to get in. But the thing is, if someone is like not perking up to that, he will then see their level of social engagement capacity. He might do the sound, and then he might see if their eyes light up with interest, or they have this tone of fear. And he might just say, you know what, just listen to me, or let's do it together. And then the story goes, but then it's like, okay, and he would be like, stop, track, feel. And then he would let that person digest in a titrated way that sound. Now, that is not going to create regulation in the nervous system. It is an entry into seeing how the system in that one session might respond to a stimulus that is there to help stimulate parts of the vagus nerve that go to the deep belly, etc. But it isn't about restoring regulation in that moment. And so what's happened, Sarah, is people have taken that exercise, quote unquote, and they've packaged it so that you can do this little course while you're just doing toning exercises. If you were to Google toning vagus nerve, I can guarantee you will find a quick course
Oh yeah.
up on the internet that's like, yeah, do this. And it's just not enough. And so recently I did a
On
video.
Instagram, like reels all the time, like take your hands and then do like this, and then put your hands on the wall, and then I'm like,
And then make a sound, and then we'll put you into the
yeah,
circus.
I see those all the time. I'm
Yeah.
like, mm-hmm.
So the thing I'll say then with that is not, I mean, I get stories all the time where people try these things and then they're like, I did this. I just heard this the other day in a comment. This person did that Voo sound, and because they're a professionally trained singer, they were able to really push out that sound because they know how to create resonance in their diaphragm, obviously through their incredible lung capacity because they're a singer, and it floored them. Their tinnitus or tinnitus went through the roof. They already had tinnitus. It was not subsiding something like 6 months later, and their whole system was a wreck. And so someone might say, I don't get it. If this person is a singer and they can belt out a song with no problem, why when they do this specific Voo sound, this is happening? And it's intention, because you're doing that with the intention to do
Like the
something
job. Yeah.
to your nervous system, right?
Right.
And it does have an effect, like it does work at a very deep level. Whereas when you're singing, you've got something in your mind, like you're thinking of the lyrics, you're thinking of the performer who sung that song, like there's a different engagement. It's like meditation. Some people will try to meditate and they feel nothing, and others will meditate, they feel fear and terror, and other people meditate and they like feel bliss, but it's actually they're bypassing, right? And so we've taken these very important exercises that I do teach, but we've put them into a context without enough padding, if you will, enough foundation so that a person knows when to stop. It isn't about how much you can do it and how loud you can go. It's what are all the other things around that exercise that need to support a person to find regulation. But the whole idea of doing some breath work to regulate my nervous system, doing some containment exercises to regulate my nervous system, the wording should be you're doing those things to help maybe soothe your system.
Yeah, soothe, calm down, but
Maybe
regulate, I think, is the wrong
it's
word, right?
it's it depends on the context, right? So in that context of Peter talking to his client, he's co-regulating with them and seeing if they can co-regulate. So back to that question of what is regulation, it's a huge term, but we're meant to build regulation in the first 3 years of our life through social engagement, through interactions with our primary caregiver. This is what builds part of our vagus nerve to have the ability to have self-regulation and to have fine tuning of our survival responses. But if we don't get it, that survival physiology is kind of like jagged. So I always think of it, regulation is like this nice, smooth up and down. You feel a little stress, like, oh, I feel a little, whatever, not very good. But then you internally know how to regulate because you know how to be in your body but you're not trying to regulate. So regulation occurs when we're not, when real regulation is occurring when we don't have to do something. So if we have to do something to try to calm ourselves down, we're not living in regulation. But we can be in regulation and have a stress response. Of course, you break your leg, you get in a car accident, even a regulated person is going to have a spike
Right.
in their stress physiology. But the question is what happens after that event? Can that person come back down to their, what we would call baseline that still has flux and then go about their day with no problem? The person who gets into that accident and is a mess afterwards, and not because of the accident, but because it shocked their system, and you've learned this in the course, chances are there was something under that was waiting, that was like packaged away.
Yep.
And then that accident, we see it with toxin exposure. We see it with life events that are really, really stressful. It's like the straw that breaks the camel's back.
Exactly.
And then that shows, ooh, this person didn't actually have solid regulation to begin with. And that's why they can't handle this life event. Now, this doesn't mean that that person is necessarily broken or bad. There's nothing to be shame about. But it just shows, hey, you had a system that didn't get the best start. That's okay. Lots of people didn't get a good start.
Right.
But we have to name it for what it is. And that's the part that is also getting confused right now. And so I think a lot of folks are, is it such a thing to self-gaslight? It's like,
Yes, I see it
right?
every day. Every
Okay.
day when I'm talking to people and I'm like, hey, it's okay for you, for you to have these feelings, or I think we're just taught so much now to suppress and you're okay and just kind of move on from whatever. And on the other side of it is autoimmune,
Yeah.
a metabolism that's like quote unquote stuck. The body is just completely in this conservation mode.
Yeah.
And really this age, midlife is for me when I'm seeing it in myself and with clients also, that everything's coming to the surface. Like you got to deal with it now. Yeah,
Yes.
it's
Yes.
real. It's real.
Yeah, it is. And so that what you just said there reminded me, some people might be going, well, what does this have to do with the health and of the system?
Everything.
And yeah, exactly. And so when we have these, and even just the other day, I saw someone, Sarah, say, and again, this is not to be taken seriously, but they're like, the term stuck is wrong. Nobody is stuck. Nothing is stuck in your body. I'm like, tell that to someone who was raped for 20 years and they've never properly moved their pelvis. Their pelvis is stuck. Like, I'm sorry. It's also an insult to people who have real physical issues because of a trauma. Like tissues do get stuck.
They
If you
do.
want to make a funny fancy word that doesn't sound like stuck, okay, but then we're not going to be able to communicate about this in the same way. So things get stuck, emotions get stuck, memories get stuck, shocks get stuck in the tissues. Our survival response can be stuck, our need to fight, scream, flee, even feel terror. And so when we have that stuff stuck in our system is being co-opted to survival, even though we might feel fine. This is, I think, a lot of Western society. We feel fine, but why are we all these problems, right? All these problems we have. And what we know is that when we are co-opted to survival all the time, we can't rest and repair. We can't go into healing the immune system, healing the cellular structures, the tissues. This is what causes the degeneration. A very kind of, one might say it seems odd, but the ACE study, which is sort of something people don't even talk about anymore for some reason, but the Adverse Childhood Experiences study put on the map the connection between early stress, early adversity in early life, and disease later in life. And one of the things, like there's the typical things like chronic illness and heart disease and mental illness and anxiety, but one of them was osteoarthritis. And someone asked me, that's weird. Why would osteoarthritis be connected to early childhood trauma? And it's the same reason osteoporosis is considered a pediatric issue that represents an older age. It's like what happened when you were young will determine if you can heal later in life. So your joints aren't going to get repaired. You also might not pay attention to your body in the same way because you're disconnected. So you're going to have, maybe a funny posture, or you'll be slumped in your spine. That frozenness of the body might not allow you to like have nice rotation and all the things that we need to keep the joints healthy. So it actually implicates in a lot of physical issues, but as we know, emotional, mental, relational, behavioral. One of my teachers, Kathy, would say, the survival physiology runs the show when it is on all the time. And you can try to change that behavior. You can try to make things easier and more controlled in your life through mindset and to-do lists and routines.
Controlling.
Which is maybe needed for some people until they get that physiology in check, but it's exhausting. And we know that people get exhausted with trying to keep up with the Joneses, so to speak, within your own system. But then that's where that collapse happens. Like, I can't keep pushing.
Yeah.
And then I collapse.
Yeah. I've had two people in my community that were affected by the fires recently out in LA, and they lost everything. And now they're manifesting with some pretty gnarly health issues. And I'm like, quit gaslighting yourself, basically. This is what you're dealing with now is very connected to what happened. Like, you literally just lost everything.
Yeah.
You're not just supposed to be back to normal. Everything's fine. Like, there's things you need to do to support your body through this time right now. And it's tough. And everyone has something, everybody has a story. Everyone has like a traumatic event. If you don't, then you're lucky, right? Maybe
I haven't met anybody that hasn't.
I haven't either, and some people are just quiet about it. Some people just keep it all inside. They just bury it in, and they're there, and you never would know.
Yeah.
But everybody has some story that I wouldn't trade. I'm like, I'll just deal with
what you're dealing with.
I'll deal with my stuff because I know it, and for whatever reason that's been given to me. But I think people don't really acknowledge these really difficult things. And again, there's this kind of culture of the Chat GPT and like the Instagram. I got in so much trouble, by the way, the last time we did an episode from someone who was really mad at me because you were saying influencer a lot. And they were like, Sarah, you're an influencer, just a FYI. And I was like, but I'm not talking about the number one. I really resent ever being called that because that's not really what I set out to do. I teach, I coach,
No, you've got professional credence behind you.
And I really do work hard to provide education and not just like show Amazon hauls, like that's not really what I do. But someone got really, really pissed at the last episode where you were talking about nervous system influencers. I think she might have been one. No, I'm serious.
Oh, no.
But it's the online stuff is so crazy. I mean, I need to do like separate episodes. I've been talking with my friend Dr. Tina about it, just with the peptides and all of that stuff going on right now, and people just putting out really, really harmful information because they don't see the back end of it. They don't see it, or if they do, they don't care. And I see the back end of it, and I'm like,
oh, we get messages and messages. Another story that came in, this was just so tragic, but I think I should share it just so nobody does this. So this will speak to two things. One, that doing at least the level of work that I teach ain't going to happen all in 12 weeks. So I've got, the different courses that I have there's this confusion when people see this, like, why have your students repeated this course over and over again? It's
Yeah,
like,
I'm
well,
sitting here talking to you thinking, I think I'm going to take it with you guys.
yeah, and but the thing
Wow.
is it's if you didn't get that regulation from the beginning, you miss that window to have that be a natural language.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say this again because it's so important. If you miss that window in utero to the first 3 years of life, when that myelination of parts of our vagus nerve is really happening, which allows us to have this nice modulated ability to self regulate, if we didn't get that, we can grow that later, but it takes a lot more work.
Mm.
It's like we both speak English. That was our first language. If you and I were decided to go and learn Korean, you and I ain't going to get that quickly in the first
No,
12 weeks. And the
no.
only way we could do it, Sarah, is if we probably went to Korea, south,
Right.
of course,
Did some
and immersed.
simulation.
And we would need good teachers, and we would need to learn more than just what you get on Duolingo.
Mm-hmm.
So, a lot of what's being taught in the influencer world isn't necessarily wrong as an entity, but it's like the Duolingo of learning regulation. It's not giving you the full picture. And so when people go through my courses and programs, those that do really well treat it like a new lifestyle and a new language they're learning, and they know, and we say this over and over, you got to keep going, you got to keep going. So the story I was going to say, there was a woman who did the 21-day nervous system tune-up course, which is our smaller course, and she was getting some good results, which was great. And then she was like, I think she was healing from depression, which is biological, by the way, everyone. It is rooted in the biology. It's not just a brain thing. And she, rightfully so, wanted to speed this up because she's like, I want to get rid of this. And so she went and did, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was like intracranial stimulation where you get electrodes put on your
Oh,
brain.
yeah. I've heard about
I
this.
and she did this and she forced herself to do, I think, the treatment protocol that they were suggesting. And, I don't have all the details because this was just a social media share.
Mm.
It messed her up. Her whole system broke down physiologically. And she, at that point, which was just a couple months ago, and this was a while ago, hadn't recovered. Like her whole physiology just broke apart. And I've interviewed an SPSM student who tried to do manual vagus nerve stimulation. This is a true story. And the people doing it on her were well-meaning people. She knew them, but they had learned these fancy techniques to stimulate the vagus nerve manually somehow, probably through the mouth, something. And she was essentially, I did an interview with her. Her name's Jerica. People can look it up. The full story is on my channel. She had what you would consider to be seizures afterwards.
What? Oh my
And
gosh.
and I'm really simplifying the story, so I recommend if people want, just go look up Jerica and Irene and you'll get it. And it freaked her out.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Thankfully, she had the wherewithal around that time. She was looking up how to heal the nervous system. So she was like shopping around for what to do because she had a lot of chronic problems. And she did find my work. And so when this response started to come out from this manual vagus nerve therapy, she was smart. She's like, okay, I need to fix this. I need to go back to the basics and relearn what to do. She was lucky, she's also quite young and healthy, so I think her system was able to bounce out of that. But if someone goes into a technique like that intracranial stim and you already have a boatload of stuff stored under,
Yeah.
it's just going to open up the system. I've seen the same thing happen with people with the EMDR.
Oh, yeah.
It's not to say that EMDR is not useful for some people,
Yeah.
but it can deeply override the system and put it into more of a stress response.
Mm-hmm.
So I share that with you, Sarah, and everyone here because, as you said, you hear about the stories when people do things without doing them properly.
Right.
And I'm just here to say there is a way to restore regulation to the system as an adult when you didn't get it, but it's not a quick fix. You can't
Yeah.
biohack it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a tough conversation because most people have been kind of in a conservation place of shutdown in some way,
Mhm.
shape, or form for a very long
Yeah.
time. And the body doesn't just bounce out of it, it
Mm,
takes time and it takes
mm,
encouragement. And that's, I have been enjoying doing a little bit more live stuff because I can kind of walk people through that
mm.
in my lane. I don't try to to do any kind of like nervous system stuff. I send them all to you.
Yep.
But I can do a lot of the basic stuff to help the metabolism start coming back
Yeah.
online and sleep and all these other things that have been kind of just dysfunctional for so long. But I
Hmm.
have to get their buy-in to, keep them with me for a little bit of time. Um,
Exactly.
because it just, yeah, it does take a little bit of time. And it's, people are so conditioned to, I'm going to do this diet for 3 months or 6 months
Yes.
and get to
Yes.
the thing. And it's going to be really
Yes.
hard when I do it, but I'm going to get the result. And then I always say, well, then what are you going to do afterwards?
Afterwards.
What happens afterwards? Everything
Yeah.
comes back. You go right back to where you were because you
Yeah.
never trained your body. You
Yeah.
never trained yourself to live in this more like regulated, normalized place of having the correct signals on board. And
Mhm.
maybe I won't be super popular for teaching that, but it's yeah, the nervous system is the same. And like I said, I did your program the first time back in
20,
2020, I believe. Yeah.
2020. Oh,
Yep.
wow.
Yeah. And maybe, yeah, no, yeah, it was 2020. And it was when oh no, 2021 is when I was going
Mhm.
through a lot of the pregnancy losses. Like,
Yeah.
I think that
Yeah.
saved me and really helped me with fertility because I was in your programs doing all those things while I was going through the tremendous heartbreak and loss. And
Mhm.
a lot of people would go through some sort of a shutdown during that.
Yeah.
And the amazing thing is, I was able to go through those experiences,
Mhm.
use the tools from your program, and then just completely transform my life on the other side. Like, completely transform everything about my life in a really positive way.
Yep.
So I do always still send people to you. I'm like, if you feel like there's nervous system dysregulation, which is so
Probably
common,
is.
and
Yeah. I think too, like the other thing that often doesn't get connected, and it's an area that I've tried to quote unquote promote more, but it's quite tough.
mm,
The stories of the mothers, Sarah,
mm,
who have had their first child without regulation and then
yeah,
their second child with, and I know you fall into this camp.
yeah,
The first was traumatic, hospital, nothing wrong with the hospital if you have to go to the hospital, but there are elements there that are definitely going to create some problems if you're not, even if you advocate for yourself, it is very hard
yeah,
when you're in that vulnerable situation. But I've done two interviews with your peers from SBSM, Erica and Kate, and night and day
mm-hmm,
births, and the children were night and day because of mama's more grown capacity internally. So
yeah,
we think of the nervous system as just this electrical thing, but like as you know in SBSM, we're working with the diaphragms, we're working with the joints, with the fascia,
mm-hmm,
with the gut, with the brain, with the movement of the pelvis and the ribs and the spine through the Feldenkrais lessons. And when a woman is really shut down in their tissues, it's hard to push that baby out. I haven't
yeah.
biologically given birth, but I've heard stories of how different it is when you know how to open up your diaphragms.
Oh, I almost didn't make it. I did go to the hospital because we use, I've already told this story a million times, so your
Mhm.
listeners are like, don't tell it again. But like the
That's
hospital we
okay.
did go to is an hour away
Yeah,
because it's better than the birth center in
sure.
town. And they're used to moms like me who are like, no, 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 no ointment, no, no procedures. No
Yeah,
procedures on the baby. The baby doesn't leave my side. I'm
yes,
leaving tomorrow. Like, they will
yes.
let you leave within 24 hours. So I was like determined to make it up to this hospital, but I almost didn't
Mm-hmm.
because everything was just like so fast. And it's
Fast.
like, Yeah, I was like in the car, like, I think this is gonna happen in the
Gonna
car.
happen right now.
Yeah, yeah, I really, really thought it would happen in the car, but thankfully we got in. We never,
Yeah.
he was in my arms 45 minutes later after walking in the door.
Crazy.
But yeah, it was totally different than with my daughter, like
Mhm.
completely. So
And some people will say that it's always easier the second time. It's
yeah,
like, yeah, so I get that too.
but
I
that was
get that
also
too.
15 years apart. So
Yeah. Yeah. Hard to say. Hard to say.
I don't know. I really don't know, but I do know it was easier experience for sure
That's
in many
good.
ways. Yeah.
So yeah, the kids are an interesting one. When a parent gets more regulated, that does show in the children. We've seen that over and over again, even adult children.
Mm,
But from what I've seen, unfortunately, it's the parent that usually has to hit rock bottom before they do this work for their kids.
yeah.
And so the parent will know that the children have issues. You name them, I've heard about it. And it's like, you got to work on yourself too. You can't
Yeah.
just drop off little Susie or Johnny at my office a door, which used to happen when I was in private practice, and
Yep.
expect me to fix them. Like, you got to do this too, because they're with you
Yep.
all the time,
Yeah.
right? And that comes back to that, how are you co-regulating
Right.
and teaching that child what it means to be a human?
Right.
And that's how they learn. Now, of course, there's medical issues that occur, and you know that all too well, and surgeries that occur that, no amount of loving connection will shift a trauma that might occur at birth or during infancy. And then that's where the parent has to really advocate and help that little one find what they need so that they can live to the best of their ability.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, like I said, I'm probably gonna jump in on this next round.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, but every round feels a bit more powerful. It's the
Mhm.
19th time we've run it.
Wow.
So it's been over 10 years that we've been running this
Wow.
beast of a program. We also did study it at a university level. So I vowed to never go back to academia. And I didn't do the study per se, but I provided the intervention, i.e., SPSM, and we found the participants who were open to doing the surveys and doing the checks and balances at the beginning, mid, and post. And that was a positive result. Like, we saw statistically significant results in people's self-worth, in their sense of feeling lonely. Their interoception improved with the markers that the lab used to study. Everything was subjective. We weren't doing biological samples or anything like that. But these people, their quality of life, they improved.
Mm.
And so that was kind of fun to do that. It was a lot of work to do that with, like, I think it was like 80 people, and we ended up with, I think, 60 in the end that gave us some results. But it was cool. It was cool to have a neuroscience lab who studies interoception look at this and go, yep, this program has validity and it looks like it's working. Thumbs up, keep going.
I love that. That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Well, we will be putting this out the week of the 25th. And I know you guys are registering for Smart Body, Smart Mind, so I will make sure to put that down in the show notes. And I think registration closes, is it March the 3rd?
Yeah, it's a Tuesday. So
Okay.
we're open the 24th through to the 3rd.
Okay.
Yeah, and this might be the one time we run it live in the current format it is in. It's not going away, but we might be changing things up a little bit. So
Doing a little bit more of like an on-demand sort of a.
I'm not exactly sure. I don't want to say too much because we haven't actually done anything yet. But just like restaurants, after a good run, need to shift things up a little bit.
Sure.
I feel like because of the confusion, Sarah, and because of the attention spans that have gotten a lot
Yes.
lower, I hate to say that.
No, yeah.
I'm looking at, like, what can we do to make it so that people purchase this, because it's a purchase, right? It's an investment, and actually do it. It doesn't feel good to me when I see people who go all in and then they say, I couldn't get through the first lab, the first module. It's like, well, that's not good. Even though we say over and over again, the tiniest bit just to a tiny bit. But because of how we've been trained in the school system, that if we don't get it all done, we fail.
Right.
That is so insidious in how humans take on a new learning project.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the issue of being able to push through and keep going, because sometimes you do have to push a little bit. There's nothing wrong with a little healthy push, but because of how we were raised in our traditional school system, at least I was, I think you might have been too, like where you had tests and assignments that had to be done at certain times and,
Yep.
grades were given. That I think has a time and a place, but when it comes to healing our system, we need space. Just like you can't say to your child, you need to be walking by this day.
Right.
It's again, it's this biological difference. And when we're learning something that has to do with our physiology and improving health, you cannot put a timestamp on it
Right.
because then the pressure just mounts. And then the old learning of I fail, I suck. And we've seen the flip side too. People have gone in with their overachiever hat
Yeah.
because they were the good kid in the good grades, and then they blow themselves out of the water because they're not listening.
Right.
So that's a big part, is learning to know what your own pace is, because
Yeah.
typically we were not given that opportunity when we were young. And then that's what creates dysregulation. So you see there's like this whole full circle. It's not just about healing the nervous system and getting the trauma out. It's that, but it's also relearning how you learn and how you approach a situation or a problem or your body or someone else's body. And a lot of us are in tons of reactivity. And I think, with the world always being a bit chaotic and unpredictable, the only thing that one can really control is ourself. And you know that,
Yeah.
right? Like you can try to help your kids figure things out, but at the end of the day, it's their little body that's going to dictate to you what you might need to do next.
Yep.
But when we're adults and we have that brain that really wants to learn and heal, a lot of cool stuff can happen. And that's what I've been seeing for many years.
I love that. Well,
Yeah,
thank you. This has
you're
been
welcome.
helpful, and I think a lot of people are hopefully going to resonate with this, and hopefully it'll kind of clear up some of the confusion around what people are seeing online. And essentially, there's no way to hack this,
No, ma'am.
and it's going to take a little bit of time. But the good thing is, it is possible to. I've seen countless success stories. There are success stories all over your YouTube channel, and
Hundreds. Yeah.
yes, so it is. I don't want people to feel like overwhelmed or like this is a daunting thing. It is
Hmm.
very possible.
Yep.
And you have this, again, success stories on your YouTube channel. I'll
Yep.
link that in the show notes
Hmm.
to prove it. So
Hmm. Hmm.
that's some cred right there.
Thanks. Yeah, no, in the grand scheme of people healing and rising up to meet, their passion and their purpose, there's so many stories.
Yeah.
And the one thing that those that I've met, because I haven't been able to meet every single person, obviously, that's submitted a testimony to us, but they're they're not just dedicated, they know that it's okay to make a mistake.
Yes.
They know that they're not going to always be perfect. And if they have that wiring in them, they are so determined to change it because they know how much that messed them up in their previous life.
Right.
And so this is more than just changing your nervous system. It's that, but it's shifting your entire soul, like the way in which you live and breathe and see the world. And people will come out the other side and say, I can't believe more people don't know about this, or I can't believe this isn't taught in all schools and blah, 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 in medical environments. It's like, well, we're asking a lot of people to get to this deeper level.
Yeah.
And so it's also not for the faint of heart. Like you will have to feel things that you have buried in your system for good reason.
Yeah.
And that's the part that, we don't want anybody to be overwhelmed to the point where they stop. And this is why that titration and that going slow is critical. And it might feel like you're not getting anything done. But it's like I always go back to the baby, Sarah. Like when you're talking to your kid or they're learning how to like crawl, and then one day they're just poof up on their feet. It's like, how did that happen? But it's because there's just been months and months and weeks and days of these little tiny micro wirings, and then just all of a sudden it's there. And I think sometimes people quit too soon.
Yeah.
But those that persevere, it's like they have a stubbornness in them. It's like, I'm going to keep doing this and know that it's going to work because I've seen the stories that it has. And then usually that's where we see more stories like that shift out
Yeah.
into the open. So, yes.
I love it. Well, thank you.
Good to see
And
you.
I'll
Yeah,
make sure to put all the links in the show notes, including your YouTube channel, so people can go. Sometimes it just helps to hear other people's success stories. You know,
absolutely.
that's
Yeah.
what I encourage people to do is just listen to the success stories and
Mhm.
say, if they can do it, so can I. That's the most important thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bye.